All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Historia Canadiana is recorded on the unceded lands of the Kanien'kehá:ka First Nation.
Peter, take it away, my dude.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Pop Canada, the show where we take just a little bit more deep of a look at what's going on in the modern day landscape and how Canada remains relevant. And today it truly is modern day landscape, as in we're going to take a little bit of a sidestep of what we usually do and talk about almost Canadian news in a way.
Yeah,
which
doesn't mean that it's not popular in the
No,
technical sense.
It doesn't
of
mean
like
that
Pop
it doesn't
Canada.
involve pop culture, because it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's just me and Patrick have realized at the moment we're kind of in like a defining moment of Canada's history, insofar as we have defining moments here in Canada, with the jokes about Canada becoming the 51st state. So
great
me and
stuff.
Patrick are here to talk today about what's been going on with that, our thoughts about it, why we think it's just a great idea. We're going to talk about brands, alternative brands, globalization. We're going to do some meme review. We're going to talk about, of course, since this is Canada, we have to talk about Quebec. We're going to talk about hockey, Tim Hortons, all that. Just the way that
it's a grab bag of pop culture by extension.
Revolving around this one event.
Yeah.
It's almost like an episode of A Cultural History of Canada.
Yeah. And I think we should mention also, because you mentioned that we love it, any positive remarks that we're going to make today are probably sarcastic.
Oh, any positive remarks about becoming the 51st state is satire. It's all like
just blanket satire statement.
Listen, I made this joke on A Cultural History of Canada, and I'll make it again. If we become part of the US, everything we buy is going to end up being $14.88.
That's never not going to get old. That's a genius joke that requires research, and that's great. Which is the best kind of joke.
Yeah, look up 1488 Nazis, and you'll get everything you need to know.
Or just don't. Save yourself from that
if you ever see the numbers 1488, chances are you're dealing with a Nazi. Listen, I'm just saying Teslas are probably going to come out for like $14,000, $14,880 at some point.
I would not put it above Elon Musk to do something like that, because he has done dumber things.
Oh, you could put anything above Elon Musk because he's so fucking far down in the mud. He's too busy crawling on the ground searching for his ketamine.
We're doing Nazi salutes, literally.
Yeah, maybe it really wasn't a Nazi salute. Maybe he was just trying to reach for something on the top shelf.
He was autistic or whatever the fuck.
Hey, that's an insult to autistic people.
Shut up. So where do you want to begin with this exactly?
I think we need to talk about the actual, what the fuck is going on and where did this come from? Because, it's all for the funnies, and people think tariffs, but there's a lot more that's, actually under the surface of this whole kerfuffle.
Yeah, do you want to elaborate on that? Because I think most people, by now, it's become such a big thing that most people, if you say tariffs by now, or even 51st state, they have a general idea of what that is, right? Even if they haven't engaged with it in any in-depth or meaningful way, they have some conscious awareness of it, right? That it's out there in the ether, whether they like it or not. Yeah.
And so essentially what happened was it during the elections? I think it was released. And Trump essentially, it all started when he posted a tweet, as he does. AI generated him looking over Canada, Canadian flag, him looking over in beautiful nature background, him standing on a mountain, Canadian flag there, and it's him going, "Oh, Canada."
Yeah.
And people sort of went, "What the fuck?"
Excuse me.
Are you just trying to be nice? We don't get it. And then eventually it started becoming 51st state.
Yeah.
Make Canada the 51st state.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody sort of went, fuck? What the fuck do you mean 50? What the fuck do you mean make Canada the 51st state?
And then like the whole thing devolved from there of like referring to Trudeau as like Governor
Yeah.
Trudeau and so
Yeah,
on.
Trudeau, and that's one half of it, and the other half is Trump's made it very clear that he's going to impose tariffs
Mhm.
on basically any product coming into the U.S. That was his original plan, and
Yeah.
he did so because protection, blah blah blah, bullshit economy. None of it actually makes sense. The economy is a lie. It's all an illusion. It's a confidence scheme.
Yes, but also,
So
yeah.
And so this became a huge debate about it. And basically, Canada and most of the world was like, dude, we have the greatest, like, the most open economic deal in the history of the world. Like, there has never been two countries more closely tied in their economies.
Three
Never been.
countries.
Yeah, if we want to count Mexico, yep, Mexico as
Not
well was
if it's
part of this.
part of NAFTA.
Yeah, that's just it. NAFTA, like basically Trump wants to toss out NAFTA. Everything is basically this whole thing of like we're in too much of a trade deficit with them. What was it? They're bringing in their guns and their drugs, blah blah blah,
Yep. Mhm.
and all this shit. And Trudeau's like,
You negotiated this recent
yeah,
version of it, buddy.
your guns and drugs come into our country, not the other way around. We don't
Also,
have like we don't
10
make that
years
many.
ago,
We don't
10
have that
years
many
ago,
guns up here, dude.
10 years ago, you called this the greatest trade deal and never ever that ever existed because you were the one who negotiated.
Yeah. And like again, like not even just economically, but the most like well-known, well-run diplomatic alliance,
Yeah.
political, like
So,
and so this just continued for a while. Lots of
yeah.
Trump's threats with tariffs and Trudeau basically responding like, go fuck yourself, Mr. President, which is God, like there's never been a better moment to be a Trudeau voter than right now and be like, yeah, fuck you.
As the meme I sent you earlier said, Kermit the Frog saying, "Fire and ready, Mr. Trudeau."
Yeah. So for those who watch Cultural History of Canada, which is going to assume everyone here, we like to do
Yeah.
those political cartoons.
Yeah,
Thing is, it's the
yeah.
modern day, so there really aren't political cartoons. Instead, we have memes. I'm
I
sure
mean,
there are political
Yeah,
cartoons,
there are,
but the memes are better.
yes, the memes are better, and any political cartoons are like toothless compared to what they used to be.
Yeah.
So,
And so, yeah, the 51st state talk is still ongoing,
Mhm.
as are the tariffs and negotiations. There's a lot of discussion right now whether he's just joking, whether he actually wants this or not. Is it a smokescreen to get better tariff deals?
So
All
that
that
was
sort of
mine.
stuff.
That was actually going to be my first question to you is because speaking of jokes and memes, a
Donald
lot
Trump.
of, well, yes, right. He literally went from being a joke to being the most powerful man in the world, and still being a joke. But one of the things that is often thrown at him is that, or used as an excuse for the nonsense thing that he says, is that he just spitballs a lot of ideas, right? Like that's what a lot of people near him say, is that he just kind of launches things off the cuff, right? Sees what sticks kind of thing, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't actually mean a lot of what he says he means. And I hate that I'm going to say this, to be fair, you kind of saw that in his first presidency as well, right? A lot of the things that he said just ended up not happening for a lot of reasons, right? Either because he forgot about them or because there was resistance to it or so on.
And I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
You can say it's a ha-ha funny, but he still wants, like, if he knows he can get away with it, he will. He just says it in such a way to see, like, he tests the waters with these jokes, in quotation marks, and then he sees what people really respond to and think. And I think that's the part people underestimate.
Yeah. How likely
he's simultaneously both
happen?
a giant fucking idiot,
yeah,
but also very like deadly businessman, if that makes sense. I'm not gonna say successful, but
no, he's not successful, but he has positioned himself to look successful at the very least.
Exactly.
Right. Which is, as you say, all a smokescreen, and that's just the world we live in. It's all illusion. But and also, right, whether we like it or not, that's also just what power means today. Right?
Yeah.
Whether he actually does tangibly have the reins of power, he is a multi-billionaire or multi-millionaire or whatever, and that means a lot in
and he's
21st century in America. Yeah, whatever, right? So
he has access to the nukes.
Yeah.
So sorry, you were going to ask me something?
No, but you kind of answered the question, because I was going to say, like, do you kind of consider this as part of his jokes? Like, how seriously do you think this?
Oh, I think he seriously wants this. I think he actually wants this to happen because he has this an idea. Again, make America great again is always going to stand for bring America back to the past. and nothing says bring it back to the past like empire. Like
And also,
the
actually
language.
taking over Canada is an idea that was like launched in the past as well.
Yeah. And it's all like this is a real thing that's always existed, this idea of empire. Like the American Empire is now a big term that conservatives throw around a lot.
Yes, often in a
Like,
positive way, surprisingly.
yeah. Like this idea that the empire will be strong. The empire, like, and I make lots of 1488 jokes, but this is all language, signs, symptoms of fascism.
Yeah, exactly. I think the term, we've talked about this before, I think the term is bandied around a little bit too much, and it kind of flattens out what fascism actually is.
Well, there's the pop cultural understanding of fascism, and then there's like, no, this is like fascism.
Exactly. So I wouldn't
like
say
this is
that
stormtroopers breaking into your house.
Right. So I don't think, kind of like when we were talking about Maurice Duplessis, he's fascist adjacent, I would say. I don't think he is straight up a
I think this is much more on the path to becoming fascism, though.
Yes. Oh yeah. I think you're right. The path is there, but it's not there yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it doesn't, like, if the crazy part is you don't even need to do this. Like, you just have to do what was already being done, and you control everybody anyway.
Exactly. It kind of runs on autopilot.
Well, like, genuinely, like, if you just like secretly work with the billionaires, like the Bezos and the Zuckerbergs, you control everybody anyway, and they would never know any better.
Not even secretly. It's not like they hide it. It's just people have bought into this idea that they're benefactors.
No, and you just have to. All any population wants is for things to appear like they're not changing,
or that they're stable. Even
then you just have to put on a facsimile of stable, and they'll go along with whatever you want. Like, and that's why, going back to, do I think this is really going to happen? The only way he's going to, like, I don't think people understand what it would mean to annex Canada.
Yeah,
because we're still part of the Brit. Like, the Brits have to sign off on it.
Would they still today?
I mean, they'd have to be part of the discussion since we are technically Commonwealth, right?
Yes, but the Commonwealth is like an association rather than actual decision-making powers in the hands of Britain, because we have.
But technically speaking, we're still a monarchy republic.
Yeah, technically speaking, that's true. I don't know how that. Yeah, that's a genuine.
Like, we still have a governor general, like, so that's what I'm saying. And people are going like, Trump can buy Canada. You can't buy a country, dude.
I mean, you can. There's nothing technically stopping you from doing that. It's just no one wants to.
Yeah, that's just it. Like, at no point do I ever like actually see Canada selling itself, except Alberta maybe, to the US.
But even then, have you seen? Okay, so this is kind of a good transition, I guess, into like the provincial side of it.
Yeah, because that's been crazy.
It's been kind
of provincials have been fucked.
And just on a federal level as well, like the whole dichotomy between liberals and
we're going to come back to federal level because we touched on it a little bit, but
yeah, that like, whole thing with
Daddy Trudeau's dipping into his daddy's genes right now. I'm sorry, but like he's very much channeling Pierre Elliott.
Well, like, to come back to Alberta, one of the things that the Alberta Premier, Danielle Smith, is often touting, right, is closeness politically and economically to the United States, right? Like, that's a major part of her platform. Ideologically, she's very close to that kind of very right-wing movement that's happening.
Yeah.
Right? She's very close to people like Pierre Poilievre, or on the American side, Trump, Musk, Jordan Peterson, right, is Canadian, but that kind of group. Yeah, but that group, right, is very much in line. And what's fascinating is seeing a lot of these provincial politicians kind of having to scramble and try to figure out a middle ground, right? It was like, well, yes, we like the Americans, but we don't
somehow, unless you're Doug
Alberta.
Ford, like Doug Ford, again, somebody who's just like whipped out his fucking hockey stick sized schlong and is slapping it around right now.
A thing that I never thought I would say, but like, good for you. This asshole of a man, like, that I genuinely despise as a politician.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Which can be very dangerous, right? Like, I'll actually refer to him throughout this episode because we had this conversation literally today with one of my friends. Shout out to my boy Parham, who may or may not be listening to this episode.
My man.
But like this idea of like the enemy of my enemy is my friend is something that can have rather devastating consequences as well, right? Because it can make it so that you associate with or you're chummy with people that you never would, and it's very hard to backtrack from that after, right? Like after
Right.
the moment of coalition kind of passes,
What do you
right?
do?
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't think Ford is a particularly good prime minister, premier, I should say, right? I don't think a lot of his ideas hold ground. But yeah, in this very specific instance, he's correct, like in not wanting to be annexed by the United States. Does that make him good though? Like, right? It is a kind of a slippery slope. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, I'm not saying we need to be friends forever,
No, no,
but
no, no. But I'm just
there is a
launching it out there.
requirement of national unity right now, I think.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Coming from two guys who are not particularly nationalistic.
Yeah, exactly. No, like I am the last man who will say, yeah, nationalism great or whatever. I will also be the first to say right now, this is why nationalism exists. And
Yeah.
we're seeing it like in droves. It has been like kind of fucking fantastic to watch.
So
It's kind of wild.
here's another question, right? Do you think it's enough? Because that's the question. That's why I thought of him. That's one of the questions that Param asked me was, where's the anger? Like that was because he's context. Param is not from Canada. He's from Iran. So like for him, he was kind of like an outsider looking in perspective. And he was genuinely curious about like the lack of anger that he perceived about these comments on the 51st state thing. And that kind of brings me to ask the question of like, do you think what we're doing right now, right, as a country, right, do you think it's enough to go back
I
against
think
these ideas?
Well, I think first and foremost with Canada, you're not going to see there's not going to be lots of vitriolic anger out in the streets and all that. I don't think that's just something that's going to happen. But I think the people have shown their willingness. Now it's about the politicians. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to start lowering barriers between provinces for trade? Are they going to start like, because they can do whatever, like the people, if as long as they use the narrative of this pushes back against the 51st state, they'll get whatever they want.
Right.
And so it's up to them right now to like take the reins and be the leader.
Right. Okay. I can see that. Okay. Sorry.
There's like a lawnmower going on right now, so I don't want to like put in too much extra sound in the background.
It's fine.
But
I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
But no, so and I think that is like, well, like you said with Alberta, she has to be careful because her position is going to become shaky with that. And this is again explaining the unbelievable catastrophic meltdown of what was a surefire win for the Republican Party.
Right.
They had a super majority like in their hands, and then
wait, you mean Republican or conservative?
Conservatives in Canada,
Okay.
Canadian conservatives. Like they had a super majority in the palm of their hands, right?
Yeah.
And then four or five things happened, really. First and foremost, Donald Trump wins the election. Second of all, Trudeau says, yeah, it could have. But then second of all, Trudeau says he's going to step down. And most people who were voting conservative, again, were just doing so because they didn't like Trudeau.
Yes.
And then third, Mike Carney finally says he's going to come back and lead the Liberal Party. Like he's been dangling his feet for years now, going back and forth, and now he finally says he's going to do it.
Which I have issues with personally.
Canada's like Liberal Party leadership problem disappears. Fourth, Pierre Poilievre fucking like I've never seen a man fumble an issue so hard. Oh my god! Do you want
to talk about that? Like, how did he fumble?
Oh, I want to get to my fifth one. I had it, but I lost it.
Sorry.
Oh, you interrupted me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Lost train of thought. I'm sorry. me shoving Pocky Huts down the throats of American soldiers. Oh, sorry about this, bud.
You'll thank me later. Anyway,
but no, it was all just like this confluence of events that's come together right now, and I think again the surprising national unity of fuck the 51st state has just been that fifth factor. Like nobody saw it coming. Like how like the booing of the American national anthem at hockey games is not something I ever would have had on my bingo card. But I'm also like, pop off, keep going.
Yeah, and it is. It's always interesting in those moments when you see Americans reacting to like booing of the national anthem and being like completely baffled, right? That such a thing would happen and genuinely incensed. And on one level, I get it. You don't like it does hit at the national pride of talking, right? You don't necessarily.
They are so proud and they just cannot ever imagine another perspective.
not just that, it does show just how much they're unaware of how much of an impact they have on
Yeah.
the rest of the world in many ways, right? And how a lot of these things are serious for a lot of
Yeah.
people outside of the American sphere. And granted, I get that perspective because they are the most powerful country still in the world, right?
Oh
A
yeah.
declining empire for sure, but still an empire.
Well, I've had
Um,
friends who are American living in there, and they're all saying the same thing. And they're all saying, I've always wondered what it would be like to live in Rome as it was burning.
well, now you can find out. Go
Now
live
you'll
in New
know.
York for a bit. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But no, so before we get into the federal again with
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Poniev and Mr.
Yeah.
PP and fucking Daddy, like I'm
Mhm.
sorry, but Daddy Trudeau. I'm
Zaddy
sorry,
Trudeau.
but he kind of we'll talk about that. And
Yeah.
then to go back to the provincial because they had that meeting too. All the provincial
Yeah,
premiers
yeah.
of Canada went to the US. Really stupid idea. But it was also a good, again, a bit of unity and also just like I think it's important right now that Canada keeps world favor by saying we're trying to do this nicely.
Yeah.
Like we're trying to be, and that way, when the rest of the world fails to, ever do anything or stand up and actually help us, we can be
Mhm.
like, well, you're all a bunch of bastards.
Right.
We are not we are 100% not the villains in this story.
Yeah. Um,
And again, just the unity of getting all 13 premiers together. Like I never thought I would see Monsieur Legault work with premiers in any way, shape, or form.
no, exactly. Sorry, I was interrupted for a bit because Kemi just made cookies and I'm gonna taste them.
Nice.
Mm.
Were they made with all Canadian ingredients?
Kemi, I was asking if these were made with all Canadian Quakers, so probably.
We got to do our part.
Thank you for doing your part.
The Never mind. Kimmy would find a way to punch me through the computer screen if I kept going.
Yeah, she probably would.
But yeah, so to switch it up back just a little bit.
Yeah, but hold on.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Well, because you were before we got sidetracked by cookies. This whole idea of they're made in Canada, 51% or more. So this idea of like the prime minister, the premiers coming together, right? The province coming together. You mentioned very briefly earlier about like the barriers between province and trade and all of that. Like one of the things that you do see kind of bandied around now is the idea that there are too many barriers between the provinces, and that's hindering the Canadian economy, right, in a big bad way, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I'll try to link it in the actual show notes of today's episode, but that's kind of a
Segue.
myth, right?
Yeah.
Like there are barriers between provinces, right? Like each have their own regulation boards and all of that, and like on some level that's fine. But there was a really interesting article, like research article that I read by a journalist institution called Breach Media, that kind of broke down where this idea of high tariffs between provinces comes from. And it's very often this ultra conservative talking point and comes from very conservative think tanks, right? That have an advantage in actually deregulating a lot of these ideas. And I think that's really fascinating and indicative of this whole move towards conservatism that Trump and the tariffs kind of represent. Anyway, I just wanted to like make a fine point on that. This is not an episode on like Canada's internal trade barriers, but it is something that should
Because
be
we're not
mitigated.
economists.
No, but it is a point that should be mitigated, right? It's not as
Mhm.
cut and dry as, well, there's too many barriers between provinces and that's what's going to solve the issue. But they're not as heavy-handed as we tend to think they are, right? There are some,
Right.
but it's not going to be like the one-stop solution.
For sure.
Deregulating rarely does that. Anyway, sorry. What was the next point you wanted to bring up
Oh,
before?
I think we're going to go a bit more. We talked about previous, so I was going to go a bit more provincial, talking about like because you asked the question, just how bad did Pierre probably have fumbled this? It's just looking like every day that he fails to come up with a real answer makes it look worse and worse.
But it's worked well for him so far, though, because he hasn't had to actually come up with a real answer. His like axe the tax schemes, for example,
Right.
or just blatantly blaming diversity and equity as if they were some communist ploy, right? In Canada, right? He hasn't had to actually back up any of his so far because he's not in a position of power. And it's his job as leader of the opposition to do that, right? To just undermine the actual government. But now that power is getting closer and closer, or at least the elections are getting closer and closer. His
And
closest.
again, now that his boogeyman has officially stepped down,
Not only his
because
boogeyman is
that's
stepped
what we
down,
all said.
but his
That's
actual like counterpart in the US is in power, and we see what exactly is going to happen if someone like Polyev comes to power, because they have the exact same fucking idea.
yeah.
People are starting to question, finally, whether or not he's actually a good thing for Canada, or if he's just going to be a Stephen Harper 2.0, which, yes, he will be.
But worse.
Worse.
Yeah. No, and I think it just keeps like, because every poll that I see, because every poll I see two major things happening as far as votes go. Because part of the system with Canada's multiple parties is we see conservatives are losing ground because liberals are first going back to the party. Like, as a nation of centrists, liberals are going back to the party because A, Justin Trudeau is stepping down, and B, they're scared of Trump. And the other thing that's happening is I'm seeing lots of NDPs who are saying, I'm going to vote liberal.
Which sucks. And just demonstrates like what the NDP actually is today, which is just liberal light. That's another issue.
Well, it also demonstrates that the NDPs understand they only have power if the liberals have power.
Exactly. Which is disappointing itself.
But honestly, like, again, we have to be careful, enemy my enemy and all that. But for now, I think it's one of those things where we need, like, the thing we need first and foremost right now is leadership, and a leader who stands up to Trump. Pierre Poilievre has shown he can't do that. Jagmeet Singh has shown for many years now he cannot be the leader that, like, a strong leader.
But it's not just that he'll never have the opportunity to.
No,
it's like
but it's also whenever opportunity comes, Jagmeet Singh does not really step up to the plate.
Yeah, it's very mitigated. It's just, again, disappointing is going to be my catchphrase for today.
Yeah, well, he is very disappointing. Like, he doesn't take lots of strong stances because, again, he understands he can't push back again, or he believes he can't push back against liberals too much because that's how he keeps his power. And
but that's what made the NDP interesting in the first place, was that they were a third solution, and even if they weren't going to get to power, they at least spoke truth to.
Yeah, what was the name? Well, who was the guy that originally did so well? Like Ryan.
Oh, you mean Jack Layton?
Jack Layton, that's the one.
Okay.
Jack Layton is turning around in his grave right now. He's quite literally rolling over.
Tommy Douglas, all of those like previous, yeah.
And yeah, he's still stepping down, but Justin Trudeau has actually, like, kind of displayed some strong leadership for the first time since the late 2010s.
What I find fascinating is also, I don't think Mark Carney is going to be a particularly strong leader, right? Like, I think it's the ultimate definition of centrism, right? In a bad way, by the way. And I'm not saying he's going to be worse than Pierre Poilievre. I just think he's going to be bland and uninteresting, right? And
I think he's just going to be stability,
the most middle of the road thing possible.
But again, that's what we like.
That's what we like. Again, it's also
not what we need.
It's not talking. It's not pushing back. Right? It's just holding on, is what it is. So we'll see where that goes, right? Once he actually.
Did you see Trudeau's speech, his address on the tariffs?
I saw clips of it, but I didn't listen to the full thing.
I listened to the full thing.
Okay.
He genuinely, I'll critique Justin Trudeau, and yeah, his legacy still isn't secure, but kind of popped off.
Good
the
for
chef
him.
Was cooking in the kitchen.
He has nothing to lose at this point.
Yeah. And again, it's a good reminder of those early days of his campaigning or whatever back in 2015 and all that, when he was still this unknown, and he just had that charismatic ability and that look in him to be nah, this ain't it. It was just that thing that he had, that first got him into power with his majority party and all that.
Yep. He did. He went through the exact same thing as his father, right? He's charismatic, interesting, handsome. Everyone loved him, and he just fizzled out.
But then when we needed him most, he's returned.
Sure.
He gives some good speeches and to tell Trump to shut the fuck up.
Yep. Will it work?
Which
only time will tell.
It's working for now, but again, it's up to a lot of the rest of the members of the House, the parties, not to come together and actually get some shit done now.
Mm-hmm. So
it all depends on if they're going to ride the wave. The wave is here of national union and all that. Are they going to ride that wave, or are they going to just watch it pass them by?
So that was my next questions. Like we've been talking on a political level so far, and I think that
Mm,
has its relevance. But the one of the things that we also need to acknowledge is like mass, right? Or the popular actual support for this type of thing, right? Because people still have their position, right? And their relevance, right? It's not just politicians.
mm.
And one of the things that you kind of see as a pushback to this idea of the first state and tariffs is this idea of buying Canadian, right?
Yeah,
As a form of national.
yeah. Symbolic nationalism.
I know you're not living in Canada right now, of course, but like what's your perspective on like how do you see this as something that's gonna like keep up? Because it is not easy for a lot of people.
No. From
Right.
what I've actually like seen from looking on the outside, it actually looks like people are taking it pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Like it seems like again, I only have really an online perspective and a family
Yeah, exactly.
perspective, but it looks like people actually do seem to be like, no, we're doing this.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's easier said than done,
Hmm.
right? Because there's some things that you just can't
No, and
buy.
again, like I
Like
said, as soon as you brought it up, I said symbolic
mhm.
gesture.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's a lot of it is just because globalization means like, yeah, the juice is Canadian, but the carton it comes in is probably still made American. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
or like in some sweatshop somewhere. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But as we've also been saying, there's power in a symbol. That's the world we
Hmm.
live in. Like we can't say
Yeah.
that Donald Trump is all power because he's a symbol or whatever, and then not say the same for this.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I
And I
think
think
that's
right now there is a powerful symbol being made right now
right. No, I think
of again by Canadian. The thing that the one that I think is actually going to do a lot more damage than people realize is the tourism.
yeah. Okay. So
Canadian tourists are some of the biggest, it's part of the biggest tourist industry for the States. Because again, it's so easy.
mhm.
Like I can pay maybe not like how expensive is the train ticket from Montreal to New York these days? It's not
I have
much.
no
Like
idea. I've never
it's
taken the
not that
train,
expensive anymore.
or even just to drive. Like most people
Yeah,
have a car,
exactly.
so like just
Yeah, it's a
drive.
5 hour. That's true. I drove to Boston from Magog over the
Yeah,
winter holidays.
exactly.
Like
Right. Just to
so much
hang.
money, not so much. Yeah, just to hang. Like my
Mhm.
parents bought their new apartment and all that, and so because it's easy. But I've
The
been seeing that
Amtrak, by
like
the way, is starting at $110 from Montreal to New York.
there you go.
Mhm.
That's not a lot.
No,
And
it's less than a
honestly,
plane
trains
ticket.
are probably one of the most comfortable options for travel.
Yep.
And
Long as
so,
hell, but it works.
hey, I like the long ride. I like the long trains. That all being said, like and I think there is something that like, the forecast was losses of up to billions of dollars for the
Hmm.
US on tourism right now.
Hmm.
Because a lot
Hmm.
of people have literally just been like making switches and saying, no, no
Yeah.
more bachelor party in Vegas. Let's just go to Banff.
Yeah. It's something that I know some people like just from my perspective, I'm not planning on going to the States for tourism, but for like conferences and things like this.
Mm,
These are things that I've already booked, so I'm just kind of keeping type of thing. But I know some people have canceled their conference attendance because, like, as a protest or because they see it as unfair, and all kinds of things. So even above tourism, just basic travel and work-related travel is being
hmm.
impacted, right? And it's not a few academics in English literature that are going to make a major difference here, but again, it's symbolic
But
here.
it's all parts, and it's not just about the paying for the travel. It's
Yeah.
you're on a conference, so you go out to eat because you don't want to
Hmm.
cook your own food.
Hmm.
You take a look at the sites and you see the different things.
Exactly.
It's the gas that you pay. It's the things you buy from the convenience store, to get you through the long ride. It's all these other little things that add up.
Yeah.
Because I saw a photo, and actually, like Canada and Mexico are we are the largest importers of the US, though. It's not China. It's not
No.
anywhere in Europe.
Yeah.
Like most states, their largest importer is there, or they get most of their imports either from Canada if they're in the north, or Mexico if they're from the south.
Yeah. Which makes sense,
And
of course.
and I think people don't like what we do has an effect. And I think Canadians are starting to wake up to that idea of like small but mighty. Yes, we
Americans
have
are
a small population, but mighty are we powerful.
Americans are also starting to wake up to that, right? That the tariffs are kind
Yeah,
of stupid because it's affecting them. It's affecting the cost of their stuff, not
I know.
ours, right?
A
Like
couple of days after the election, the most searched Google thing was what is a tariff?
not just that because it sounds good, right? Politically, right? You're like, oh, okay, make America again, make America great
Make
again is
America great again.
a banger slogan, right? Um, but you're already starting to see, right, people turn on this idea because it's like, oh, I have to cop the tariff, right?
Yeah.
I can't impose necessarily in the way that I thought that I could. So you are starting to see that shift, right? That same rhetoric that Trump was using, which I think works politically, no matter what side you're on, is actually
Yeah.
talking about people's money, right?
And I
Their
think
material conditions, right? That's what people want to hear about. And they're starting to realize, oh, well, that thing he was talking about is not what he was saying.
And I think it's about the angle of delay.
Mhm.
That's all we have. Like we just have to wait out this guy for now, and then because then his first 100 days passes, right? And that's the most important part of any president. And then if his first 100 days passes without major gains being made, that's a big strike to him.
Mhm.
And then we wait out, and then we get to things like midterms.
Yeah.
And then, there's always a big shift in the House of the midterms because
It's
there's always
never,
going to be a big swing back to the either way.
but it's
And
also
there's always,
never just waiting out, right? There is always action in between.
well, no, I think it's active resistance to delay at the moment because
Yeah,
we can't
exactly.
wait. Like, jet, we, I'm very proud of my Canadians right now. Like, keep doing what you're doing, kings and queens of the North. But we will lose any type of war with the US.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like economic, cultural, political, like we will lose that war.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to, like, our number one tactic right now is resisting enough to make sure that the war does not look palatable in the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I have nothing to add to that. Just yes.
Yes, perfect statement from Mackenzie Cooper for once. And I think that's just what we have to keep doing. Like, and I think that is our best shot is the economic angle right now. Just keep making it seem less and less viable because we actually are an economically you don't get into the G7 for nothing.
No, and again, there are a lot of problems here, right? There was
Yeah.
problems with inflation and all of that. Like, I get it, like housing crisis, all of that jazz, right?
And all that jazz.
But generally speaking, you're right in
You're
saying
better
that,
off living in Canada than you are in America, generally speaking.
oh, 100%, 100%.
Unless you're Indigenous. Then
Yeah.
you just fuck no matter where you go.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. But
But hey, it's great for the whites.
yeah, satire, sarcasm.
Sarcasm.
No, but although speaking of national unity, one of the memes that I sent you was like Quebec memes.
Mhm.
I have to admit,
It's about time we had a discussion about what's going on in Quebec.
it's always funny to me, like how quickly this flip flops back and forth. And this is not the first time that we've talked about this.
Listen, I think Quebec it's one of those cases of like only I get to be a bitch to Canada. Anybody else who tries to be a bitch to Canada gets fucked up. Like
Exactly.
and
Or
that's my
Alberta.
other favorite thought. Like I think I saw a couple articles and a couple memes of like,
Mhm.
does Trump really want to learn to try and deal with the
Quebec.
French Canadians?
The British tried forever and failed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a thing, right? And obviously, right, like Quebec sovereignty is not what it used to be, right? It hasn't
No.
been for a while.
No, the Quebec push for sovereignty, but also like there's still some angry little bastards in this province. There's still some like absolute bastards in Quebec, and
But,
I
like-
say that like I love my Quebec family. I love them to
Yeah,
death.
yeah.
But like we all know, just some guys, they're ready. They're ready with their trucks and their.
I mean, there's a reason why the current government is what it is. There is some level of nationalism, of Quebec nationalism and sovereignty, even if it's not what it used to be. That's kind of still sizzling there, right? That's what the current Legault government is kind of banking on, right? And most of its platform revolves around that. So it is interesting to see those moments of overlap where, despite that, they're also in agreement with ostensibly the thing that fucks them over the most.
Yeah.
It is kind of
It's
funny.
just
Right.
and no, and it's kind of wonderful to watch. Like you sent the meme.
Mhm.
So, do you want to describe this meme template about Legolas and Gimli?
It's like it's the meme template that we've all seen before of like
It's from the
I never
so for
thought
my
I
mother Elise, who hasn't seen this meme template before. Actually, we're gonna have to bring my mother Elise to help
but your
describe
mother
memes.
at least
There's
has
the meme,
seen Lord of the
Lord
Rings.
of the Ring, yes,
Right.
and so there's the very famous scene at the end of the third movie they're about to go into battle at the Black Gate. They're about to like big final charge, suicide charge against Mordor to give Frodo time to destroy the ring. And Legolas and Gimli are there. Elves and dwarves never gotten along before. And Gimli's there. He's looking death in the face, and he goes, "I never thought I'd die side by side fighting with an elf." And Legolas replies, "What about side by side with a friend?" And Gimli's like, I could do that." And so that became a very famous template for when parties who are, or people or groups who are usually in opposition to each other, stand together again against some sort of common foe or idea. And so for this one, it's
Quebec
so,
saying,
yeah, it's Quebec. Gimli is Quebec. He's got the little Quebec flag on his head for it, and he goes, "Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with Canada." And Canada responds, Canada's like, "Less never. What about side by side with a friend?" And Quebec responds, "We're doing another referendum after this."
Pete Quebec.
Yeah, fucking
Yeah.
Quebec.
No, I love it. Anyway,
But it is like it does get that sentiment across where there are lots of Quebecs that are stepping forward and going, "Hey, tabarnak, fuck you, Trump, mange ma merde, Donald Trump,
you have to really emphasize them out. Mange la merde, tabarnak.
mange la merde, tabarnak."
There you go. Nailed it. 10 out of 10.
Yes.
No notes.
I don't know if the evangelicals are ready for the Donald Trump. I don't know if the evangelicals are ready for the Quebec uprising.
Yeah, I was about to say,
the
like,
angry
what
Quebecs. The American Christian evangelicals, I don't know if they're ready for like the pure vitriol and hatred that the Quebec people will bring to the table against the church.
Oh man, I can't wait. Just absolutely fuck them up.
Hey, you get your fucking religion out of my schools, tabarnak.
We have something against the Catholics. I don't know how we feel about Protestants.
Oh, we just have something against every religion, man. Like Maurice Duplessis left some fucking scars, yo. That left some trauma.
Speaking of generational trauma, fucking
But again, it speaks to the issue, like, if this is going to happen, the only way I can realistically see this happening, because again, the Quebec people, they've shown time and time again, they will only be put down by like actual use of military.
Yes, yeah, which is unfortunate, but you're the ones who keep advocating for gun power, so
yeah.
How about a taste of your own medicine?
It's this crazy thing. Like, if he wants to do this, great. But there's a lot of things he's gonna have to like take into account because it's easy to say Canada has no military, but we got a lot of fucking land we can hide in. Like, resistors and rebels are just gonna be able to like run off into the woods and you'll never find them.
I think that's easier said than done though, because we do have
Didn't
a lot.
We just read and talk about a story a couple months ago.
That was 100 years ago though.
And you think the sentiment isn't the same? You think my uncle in the Yukon isn't ready to drop everything and like take his snowmobile off into the tundra?
Up there. Difference is there are American bases in Canada.
That hasn't stopped us before.
I mean, they are relatively recent. Like, I don't know. I get the sentiment, but I also think that's a bit of wishful thinking. I still think it's funny. It's funny.
Oh, 100%. We're gonna get steamrolled, but it's gonna be a nonstop
180 that you did on that.
No, we will, but I just think like the original impact will be a total steamroll. But then like having to hold Canada, having to like exercise the kind of control Trump is used to over Canada is gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem with any empire, because the Americans did the same fucking thing. Yep. The Americans did the same fucking thing to the British. Like, they were the small little ones, punitive army against the mass, but the idea is it's hard to hold these things.
Yeah.
Like, that's the problem with empires, as it were. And so the way to beat that is full integration of the state into the country. Canada would have to actually become the 51st state with all the rights and responsibilities that comes with. But then guess what happens if they do that? They lose the White House.
Surprise, motherfucker. Also, can we just talk for a second about how insane it would be that the entire country would be one state?
Yeah, no, like that, and but then do you divide it up? But so you then give more powers to Canada?
Like okay.
It's because again, we make jokes.
Yeah.
But the reality is like
because this is a joke.
Yeah, our conservatives are about like, save for a couple of sporadic cases, are on the most part center American politics.
Yes.
Like I'd say center, a little bit to the left. Obviously, there are exceptions. Your Stephen Harper's, Pierre Poilievre's, your Albertans, whatever. But on the whole, most conservatives that I know are in like, they're very much more Democrats than they are Republicans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. I can see that. Yeah.
And so it's just like, why do you want more? You hate the Democrats. You hate the liberals. Canada is mostly liberal.
Don't get me wrong, I hate the liberals too, just for different reasons.
We are not the same. It's just like it's insanity. But it speaks to the real reason that this is happening. It's not the tariffs, it's not the fentanyl, it's not guns, it's not immigration. They want, amongst most, yes, there's lots of resources, but first and foremost, they want our water.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a resource. It's always on capital.
It's the most important resource.
Yeah.
And that's all that's all it is. They
Our
see
minds.
China, see China trying to steal our water, and they want it too.
Great. Whatever.
There's that, and I genuinely think there's some part of Donald's mind that is genuinely like in a delusion of, no, I'm going to make an empire.
Yeah, because he did the same thing with fucking Greenland.
Yeah, he's trying to take Greenland too.
Yeah.
And then the representative of Denmark in the EU Congress basically stood at the front and said, "Fuck you, Mr. Trump." Like literally word for word.
Great, as you should. I am
The
not
British
at all.
printed in their newspapers, "The village idiot has returned."
Look, the British don't have much of a leg to stand on right now politically, but okay, I appreciate the sentiment again. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this has been really a jokey one, but I think that's the best way we can do that on an audio medium like this.
I think, but it speaks to the Canadian resiliency of like, this is just what we do. Like, we are a comedic people. There's blizzards outside, so we developed a sense of comedy, you know?
Man, I'm so done with this fucking snowstorm that we got, though.
Exactly. It's either like we can be miserable and terrible because everything is cold and everything sucks, but that'd just be stealing from the Russians. So why not just make our own thing? You know, we're gonna be the funny people. Jim Carrey, Mike Myers, the Boys in the Hall, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So we're being jokey, but that's because who we are. Again, like building on that sort of national unity discussion in this episode, we're not gonna get angry. Like your friend from Israel is never gonna see that anger in Canada. But
okay.
Iran, sorry. I thought you said Israel. My bad. I'm very sorry about that. But we're gonna be the most satirical, sarcastic motherfuckers you'll ever hear.
That's gonna stop the American Empire. Satire.
It's not gonna stop it. But again, it's that idea of make it as painful a thing as you can every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And like just keep jabbing them. Just keep needling them till they show who they really are, you know? Because otherwise, the satire won't stop the American Empire for sure, but then what's the point of all the stuff you study? Like a lot of the stuff we study is journals and academics writing essays in response to these.
Yeah.
Groucho Marx and others.
The real speaking truth to power.
But it is though, like that's the whole point of this. It is speaking truth to power. It is. George Orwell was a satirist.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's true. I think we've talked about this before. I think that used to be more effective, right? I don't know if you agree with me, but I think satire is dead in many ways, right? Because here's
the thing.
We live in such an absurd world that it's very difficult to be satirical and not for someone to.
Except you can, like, people's egos will always be their own downfall. And you want to know how I know satire still works?
Okay.
The entire Chinese government had a nuclear fucking meltdown because of Winnie the Pooh.
Did it though?
They did. They lost their shit. No, they were demanding apologies from the creators of South Park over this. Like,
but the state apparatus still like continued.
And they got revealed. Again, we've been talking about the power of the symbol. We've been talking about the power of the illusion, and that's a big part of it. The illusion of Donald Trump will be broken because of his ego. At some point, like every time that needling will continue, and every time it does, he reveals himself more and more for the tiny dick man that he is. And it won't wait. It may not make like what we consider real change, but as you're saying, the world is absurd.
Yeah.
And so the absurd victories are the ones that might matter the most.
As usual, you have much more hope about these things than I do. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you for that. I'm not saying that as a criticism. I think
you're just much more cynical.
Yes.
And it's nice. It does bring me back down to reality sometimes, which is nice. But I just think like in the world that we live in,
that we complement each other.
Yes. Some might say, hey, these two pals might be recording from inside a closet, but what am I doing with my life, man?
All that to say, death to America.
Yeah, death to the infidels and the American scum.
Oh fuck! It's Saturday night and it shows.
Sunday morning, I don't want to go back to school on Monday. Now,
Yeah,
to bring it back to Michael and Dachi one last time,
please.
let's
As one
talk
does.
about the most recent thing we've seen of like Canadian protest.
Okay.
The Four Nations face-off in hockey.
We briefly talked about that one, but yeah, I like it. I
It's
dig
just
it.
again, it's just like Justin Trudeau afterwards tweeting out, "You can't take our game and you can't take our country."
No,
And yeah, stupid little tweet for sure. But do you want to see how many triggered people there were in the comments?
there had to be. There had to be because
And again,
that's
it's
the whole
just
point of social media, but
like,
also
yeah,
just
trigger the libs.
yeah,
You guys
whatever.
get triggered so fucking much. It's hilarious.
Trigger the libs, and then you mention a pronoun, and people go bananas.
And again, it's stupid to say, but in the face of such a giant monstrosity that is the American machine,
Yeah.
the small victories, they're not nothing.
No, it is something. Yeah,
How do you
I am
eat an
curious.
elephant, Patrick?
I'm sorry,
How do you eat an elephant?
I don't know this
One
joke.
bite at a time.
Oh,
It's not a joke,
yeah.
it's an actual saying.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Or as they
Um,
said in the Boondocks, when the cartoon Boondocks, Grandpa, what do you do when you've done everything you can and don't feel like enough? You just do what you can.
You do. You can always do it.
Mhm.
But that's true. I do like that sentence. And what just because I didn't follow that.
That being said,
The
everything
anthem
that
thing.
happened at Four Nations only works because we won. If we lost, fucking egg in our face. But we won, thank God.
100%.
Connor McDavid clutched up. Connor McDavid for Prime Minister of Canada.
That was my question though. Did it only happen the once, the booing of the anthem, or did it happen?
No. It happened both. Like, it's been happening not just at Four Nations. It's been happening at regular games as well.
Oh,
Like
okay.
anytime,
I didn't know that.
like the Bruins got booed in Ottawa and all this stuff. Like, it just keeps happening.
Huh.
This is a movement that's like picking up right now.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, for those who aren't paying attention, for those
because I
on
don't
our
pay attention to sports.
Yeah.
So like I heard
Yeah, no.
one headline once.
for those in our audience who are like Patrick and are very much academics, hockey is our sport.
Who live under rocks.
Now, for those of you who live under a rock, Canadians like hockey. And what's been happening is at Canadian home games, because then both anthems play, American national anthem and the Canadian national anthem. The American one has been getting booed. I think this started in Ottawa. I'm not 100% sure, but it's something that keeps happening and starting to pick up traction. And just recently we had what is known as the Four Nations face-off, which is like the biggest nations in hockey basically playing against each other.
Right.
It used to be 6, but then Russia's not allowed anymore, and
Yeah.
I guess the Czechs fell off and they haven't gone back up again. So it's Canada, Sweden, Finland, and the US.
Right.
And so the very first game starts, the booing happened, and within 9 seconds there was 3 fights.
Like between players or in the
Between
like,
players.
okay.
Like the puck dropped and then the gloves came off.
Which I feel kind of bad for the Americans though, because they're not the ones actually making this decision. Like,
No, they have
Just
no
kidding.
say in the fucking country or whatever. They don't give a shit. They're just here to play hockey. But
imagine you're
here's
just
the
about
thing.
to like hit a puck and you get a face full of glove.
Here's the thing. Silence is complacency.
That's true. But like, yeah, it's that whole argument.
Silence is complacency. And so, yeah, it's just hockey or whatever, but this shit matters.
I do agree.
So we lose the first. Again, you can't make you can't make this script up.
This is
This is not a script because it is. we lose by 3 goals. I think we get our shit wrecked in the first game against the US. And then we have a nail biter game against Finland where we win 5-3. We go against the US in the finals. We score a goal, they score a goal. We score a goal, they score a goal. Third period ends 2-2. We end up going to sudden death overtime. And again, you can't make it up where it's Connor McDavid, new king of Canada, scores the winning goal. Like, what the? You just know that man, like, when he scored that goal, he was thinking about the Stanley Cup. He was thinking about Game 7 in Edmonton Oilers of like, fuck it, we ball. Like, he just, boom.
So
Like,
funny. I love this expression of yours, by the way. Connor McDavid, new king of Canada.
He might as well be. Like, I know you don't pay attention, but my family's very much into hockey, and like, I saw the tweets, I saw the posts.
Mhm.
The love that came for this man, the love that came for Connor McDavid, it was insane.
That's pretty
It's not
like I didn't realize he was that good. I just opened up his Wikipedia page. He was widely
Oh
considered
yeah.
one of the best players in the world, and his dominance has drawn comparisons to players such as Wayne Gretzky. I'm like, huh, never heard of him before now.
So the big thing that's holding him back is he doesn't have a Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
He needs to get Stanley Cups, and then he needs Stanley Cups and he needs a nickname.
yeah.
You know,
King of
Wayne
Canada.
Gretzky, the great one. He needs Mario the Magnificent Lemieux, Flower Power Guy Lafleur, Maurice the Rocket Richard, Sid the Kid Crosby. You know, like he needs a nickname.
Yeah, yeah.
And honestly, at this point,
King of Canada.
Connor the King McDavid. You know,
The great liberator of Canada.
yeah, the revolutionary Connor the Revolutionary McDavid.
Connor Napoleon.
Yeah, and it's such a small thing, but again, like this whole idea of triggered owning the libs or whatever,
Yeah.
Canada wins, and immediately you have just so many Americans being like, "Oh, when was the last time you won a Stanley Cup, though?" Oh, when it's like, guys, the players who just won this match, most of them play for American teams. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Most of your teams are made up of Canadian.
That and
But
also
again, that's also me as a Canadian, like trying to put. So it's like it's insane to me. But then this is what we fight over. We can't fight over actual things.
it's just trivial things.
Yeah.
Hockey games. So
Hey, and you know
New
what?
World
We
War.
won. The important thing was
Yeah.
we won.
Again, it
reminds
would
me
have
of
been such egg in our face.
But hey, again, the King clutched up. I say we make King McDavid a thing.
Yeah, replace King
You
Charles.
heard it here first. King McDavid.
The new glorious revolution, where instead of him being replaced by Cromwell, see,
Connor
the
the Rebel McDavid.
the last Charles was overthrown by Oliver Cromwell. This Charles is going to be overthrown by Connor
McDavid.
McDavid.
And again, the hockey memes. So what was the one you said? Okay, this one is like, this one is bad.
It's unhinged, and I love it.
Do you want to explain this one?
No, I feel like I'm gonna get like the FBI knocking at my door if I
Basically, Connor McDavid.
9/11.
Yeah, I feel like shit for laughing. I'm a horrible person. But the idea is essentially, like, again, Connor being like taking down the American institution, the comparison of Connor McDavid as flying a plane.
into the Twin Towers.
Yeah. And again, it's just like it's continued insanity. I think the one that you sent me that's my favorite is the George Lucas one.
It's so funny.
Everybody watching The Phantom Menace back in 1999. Why does any of this matter? Who gives a shit about taxation of trade routes? George Lucas in February 2025 laughing his ass off.
Okay. I think this is as good a place to stop as any because at this point we're just rambling.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I'm gonna read out some brands. So
sure.
made in Canada. Yeah. I'll really quickly. I'm just gonna read out some brands you should avoid, and I'm gonna give my opinion on whether or not you should really make the switch. So first and foremost, cheese brands to avoid: Kraft, Canadian Alternatives, Saputo, Black Diamond, Armstrong. But also, like, at this point, I think Canada should just buy Kraft anyway because of how much Kraft dinner we eat.
Yeah.
And Kraft peanut butter. Like, I think we just need to do it. Then cream cheese, Philadelphia to avoid. Get Tricel, Argoport, Lactantia, or whatever you want to call it. See, the fact that he can't even say it really goes to show just how shitty this shit is. Yogurt, avoid Yoplait, get Astro Olympic, Liberté. That's true. The Astro Olympic and Liberté, that shit slaps.
That is true.
Butter, avoid Land of Lakes, get... Oh... Okay, we already get that butter then. Lactantia, Natural, Gailey, Galea, I don't know.
Galea.
Avoid your Coca-Cola and your Pepsi, unless you're Quebecois. If you're Quebecois, keep getting Pepsi. Because that's just funny. That is genuinely funny. Instead, buy Canada Dry, PC Cola, and great value from Walmart. Isn't Canada Dry owned by Coca-Cola?
Yeah, this is an insane list. What is happening? But I mean, if you go back far enough, it's all just one company, big trench coat.
Yeah. Avoid Tropicana, get Oasis, Sunripe, and Authors. And that's just true because Tropicana is shit. Like, Tropicana is actually garbage.
So a lot of this, instead of like going, a lot of this can be boiled down to, like, if you really want to, well, again, there's complications with it. Buy as local as possible.
Yeah,
right. Like,
honestly,
if you really
want to do is go to your local butcher and grocery, like go to your local market, like go to the Atwater market,
which is easy for me to say because I literally live like right above the Jean Talon market.
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy for me to say this. Obviously, it's not easy for a lot of people, but that's probably the best way out of it.
Yeah.
Just going
So I'm gonna
directly to
keep
the
going because
source.
I think this just such a funny list. Sports drinks, so no more Gatorade and Powerade. Instead, you get BioSteel powder. Just get BioSteel, you mix it in with your water. Great hydration drink. 10 out of 10, I do recommend that one. Energy drinks, I'm not even gonna bother. Don't drink energy drinks anyway. They're not good for you. Bottled coffee drinks. It says get Tim Hortons, but Tim Hortons is owned by Burger King, so fuck off.
This is such a weird. What is that?
Let's see. Instead of Lay's, you get yourself some Old Dutch Covered Bridge Hard Bite. Get Old Dutch if you can, but I don't know how much Old Dutch there still is. And also, just don't eat potato chips. Also, not good for you.
Yeah, half of this list you shouldn't eat.
Yeah. Cereal. So yeah, no more Kellogg's. Again, why would you get Kellogg's? It was made by a man who wanted to stop masturbation. Instead, you get Quakers, which is some Canadian made, not a Canadian brand, but some Canadian made, as we demonstrated with Patrick's cookies earlier. Or sorry, Kemi's cookies. I did not mean to say that you owned Kemi's cookies and by transfer
She will
properties
hear
own
about
Kemi.
this. She will hear.
I know she will.
You
I
will.
know she's.
Stop.
I'm gonna wake up in Australia. She's gonna be standing over me.
Oh, yeah, it's like Rambo.
She's gonna be standing over me with like a rope, and she's gonna be like, "Hey, you want to talk about Doctor Strange?"
References that no one is going to get.
Literally no one, but that's okay. Honestly, just go to Maxi Brand and buy like all that yellow no-name stuff if you wanted, because most like, oh, that's true actually. For your deli meats, Maple Leaf over Oscar Mayer. That's one that actually can make a difference. Don't have to worry about maple syrup because it's all Canadian anyway.
You know what? I'll link the list in the show notes.
Hold on, I'm almost done.
No, dude, this list is so long.
But no, it's crazy because at one point they say the American brand is French's for mustard, but you should buy French's for ketchup, which is Canadian made. President's Choice the President's Choice literally has president in it. How's that Canadian?
It's a Canadian brand, but it's also coming under a lot of, like, there was a boycott not that long. Actually, this is really interesting because again demonstrates how short these things usually last, right? Because there was this whole discussion about greedflation, right? About grocery stores deliberately inflating prices in order to make a higher profit, right? And people are going to buy it anyway because they'll need food. Like there was a whole commission about it and all of that here in Canada. But like there was for a while, Galen Weston, the president of President's Choice, right, and Canadian, was kind of coming under fire for his position on this, and people were advocating for a boycott of places like Loblaws and Choice and so on. And it lasted like a couple of months. But
yeah,
it usually dies out pretty quickly, unfortunately, because again, people like
people gotta eat.
People gotta eat. People like find things more.
But also, like, yeah, you can buy like Oasis juice, but if you're still buying it in a Walmart, that's American.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So whatever. It's
better just to buy as local as you can more than anything.
Yeah.
Globalization is bullshit. That list is bullshit. Remember, own the Republicans, make them cry. They're a bunch of little thin-skinned baby turds. And as our hero once said, delay, deny, I'm actually going to get deported from this.
I'm not going to edit that out.
I know you won't. And that's the problem. You just let me go sometimes when you really shouldn't.
My fucking guy.
Oh, sorry about that, Mario.
No.
All right. And I think that's it. Take us away, Patrick.
Anyway,
take me away to the hospital.
As true hero of the Soviet Union said, delay, deny, and depose your American overlords.
And he was conservative too. Like he voted Republican.
Wasn't that other guy who shot Trump, or did he actually vote Republican?
No, this guy was a Republican. Like that's why he knew how to use a gun.
So good.
Remember, it's never actually about left versus right. It's about oppressed versus oppressors.
Yep.
To quote Magneto.
Who's quoting Marx. Let's go.
Let's go. It all comes back to be a communist, baby.
All right.
Remember, if you want to show that you're a communist, have a limp handshake. All commies have weak handshakes, according to the capitalists of the world.
Sure. Yep.
My brother, I will feel your hand.
Anyway, this one is somehow going to be on the free feed.
And bringing it back to Michael Ondaatje.
We're going to release this to the public for some reason and probably lose all of our subscribers because this is just unhinged at the end.
Oh, we're going to get a whole lot of like, how dare you hate on men? How dare you hate on this? How dare you hate on that?
I'm going to get ahead of it. I don't care. Yes, I hate men. Yes, I hate capitalists. Yes.
Yes, I hate white people.
Yes, I hate white people.
myself. Yes, I cry myself to sleep every night. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
I cry when I masturbate. Yes, like all the insults. Yes. Right?
My mother's gonna kill me.
whatever you're gonna write in the YouTube comments, yes. Okay? Just stop. Okay? Delete your comment. I don't care.
Or post your comments. The engagement is good. Why? You mad conservatives? You're gonna cry about it, you little babies?
Anyway, thanks for listening. We're going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming next week.
We're gonna be back to our regular level of nonsense.
I love how quickly this just went off the rail. Just completely off the rail.
Man, I don't care. Like, we live in an absurd world. These are absurd times. We live in a postmodern society. I'm gonna postmodern the shit out of this.
Thank you for doing that. All right. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Have a great fucking day.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.